Hey there, Riverica here, reporting for duty on a trigger. Thank you so much for shuffling states of emergency into adoption spirit with me and steering clear of danger. Heartily, we are grateful. In this session, we are seeing what Venus in Pisces squaring Mars in Gemini at 11 degrees has to say to us. And before we begin, some disclaimers. I am not a doctor, a lawyer, or a therapist. I am a fortune teller, so what I offer is no substitute for their services. Furthermore, what I share does not determine your future, only your intentions and your actions do. So please use your gift of discernment before deciding what to gather and take away. And of course, take only what resonates with you and blow like a kiss the rest back to the universe for cosmic composting into beauty. Heartily, we are grateful. And this reading is for fun and games, for shits and giggles, for entertainment, for flexing our mind, heart, spirit, and soul, and intuition. And at the least, I hope to cause harm to none, and at the most, I hope to assist you. And so, moving on to introducing our helpers, I have lit candles for Source, Mother Earth, Father Sky, the homeless, those that kick them out of their homes, the neighbors, the passers-by. Harmony, unity, and balance. Archangel Archangel Anil for Friday, and the ancestors here in the highest love and light, and those who have crossed over to Father Sky by suicide, and their family and friends that they left behind on Mother Earth, as well as the war-torn families, nations, and galaxies. And we thank Source for helping us all adopt success, transmuting these violent cycles into love. Heartily, we are grateful. I also have my crystal ball helping us, and my wooden dice, wooden dagger wand, wooden wand. You know, maybe you know, wood buoys your spirits, among other things. And you can check the metaphysical properties of all of these items yourself. Check 4 or 5 or 6 different sites to see what resonates with you, because of course we are all different psychosocial science experiments. And what resonates with one person may not resonate with another. So we have rose quartz I brought out for Venus. And so there's just a different rose quartz chunk on each deck of cards. And these are the Paragrams by Paramahansa Yogananda. And some of you may be familiar with the Self-Realization Fellowship and Paramahansa Yogananda's Autobiography of a Yogi. You can check that out online. You might even be able to find a free copy of the Autobiography of a Yogi. And you might be able to gather these paragrams on your own, because I cannot transcribe them for you on the closed captioning, so I apologize profusely. I am restricted by copyright. And this is the Tree Angel Oracle, The Ancient Path into the Sacred Grove by Fred Hageneter and illustrated by An Heng. And here is the rose quartz that was accompanying that deck of cards. Oops, out of focus. Looks like an arrowhead, doesn't it? And this rose quartz is wonderful for unconditional love. Unconditional love. And this is the Sacred Geometry Activation Oracle by Lon. Pardon me. And here's the rose quartz that's accompanying that. And then we have the Cosmic Dancer Oracle by Sedona Soulfire and Tess Whitehurst. And here is the rose quartz that's accompanying that deck. And we have the Cali Oracle by Alana Fairchild and Jimmy Morton. And the rose quartz that's accompanying that deck. And I'll leave the details of these crystals and tools and decks and the authors and the illustrators in the description. And here is the rose quartz that is accompanying the furthest from us deck of cards, the Living Altar by Kiki Robinson and Ilvadroma Marzana Radziszewski. And that Living Altar is, pardon me, an oracle and spell deck for the Radical Witch. And so we are going to roll this dice, pardon me, and see what Venus in Pisces squaring Mars in Gemini at 11 degrees has to tell us in our highest love and light. Thank you, Source and Spirit Team, for guiding this reading. The highest love and light, heartily, we are grateful. We have number 6. I had a feeling. So number 6 is a beautiful number. It highlights the difference between light and dark and the choices we make between those two. And it is a number of service. And it also can defend against things such as psychic invasions and enables us to maintain our integrity by maintaining healthy energetic boundaries. And it also helps us release the unconscious benefits of a repetitive pattern and embrace more joyful ways of responding to life. So, for more on the numerology, you may check out Cindy Dale, and I'll leave some references in the description. Her Subtle Body series, she's got quite a few books on the subtle body, and it's fascinating. And for the astrology, you may check out Molly McCord. She has podcasts weekly that you can tune into to learn more about the astrology and understand more about Venus or Mars. Like Venus and Mars, that's the masculine and the feminine, right? And the reverse order, Mars is the masculine and Venus is the feminine, and there's so much more we could talk about. And Molly McCord is one of the amazing astrologers who can share more about that, as well as the different signs, like what does Pisces mean? What does Gemini mean? And so I invite you to check out those resources. And this Living Altar is one of the only Romani decks in circulation that I know of, so I'm quite thrilled to have it in my hot little hands. And we thank your Source and Spirit Team, your angels, your galaxy guides, your ancestors, your saints and sages and gods and goddesses, and your universes here in the highest love and light, as well as mine. And we thank your Source and my Source for immediately shifting the situations into what they need to be, offering necessary insights, healings, acts of grace, protection. Heartily, we are grateful. You are a full, whole, loving, powerful, spiritual being, and so am I. We are so grateful for these blessings. Thank you, universe. Thank you, Source. And so let's see what Venus in Pisces squaring Mars in Gemini at 11 degrees has to tell us. Some of you may already be feeling this, and some of you may feel it over the next couple days. And we have elderhood. What a beautiful, beautiful card. And on the bottom, we have midday. So I'll show you the midday card first, so you can vibe with that. So beautiful. You can hear more about how this deck was created on the Living Altar, Altars Up Witches podcast by Ilva and Kiki. And you also may find out more about how this deck was created on the Romanistan podcast, the Halloween episodes. Super spooky. So this elderhood card, how beautiful is that? Both of these cards, the artwork is amazing. They're so powerful. So let's see what this elderhood has to tell us about what Venus in Pisces squaring Mars and Gemini at 11 degrees has to tell us. Elderhood. Maybe some of you are in the elderhood. I think I've got a ways to go. I'm 52. I think I've got a ways to go before I hit the elderhood. What do you think? Okay, so there's 3 parts. The Witch's Wheel correspondence, the spell, and the guiding messages. So here we go. The Witch's Wheel correspondence. This corresponds to Earth, winter, North, soul harvest, midnight, balsamic moon, that came up earlier when I was shuffling, boundaries, identity, relationship, and resource. Super interesting. Identity is one of the 7 cards that we all get dealt with loss and trauma, and we're adopting new life to overcome that loss and trauma. Identity is one of the 7 cards we are all dealt. The other 6 cards are intimacy, mastery and control, guilt and shame, rejection, mastery and control, loss and grief. So that's what's jumping out at me here with this Witch's Wheel correspondence, and also boundaries. Such a thing for orphans and adoptees. Our boundaries have been really violated in so many ways. Even though so many of us have grown up hearing, oh, it's for the best. It's really not. It's just different. And so, especially after the past couple years, the past 7 years, the past decade or 2, many more adoptees have been stepping up and dismantling the adoption fairy tales and closing out the old earth and rebuilding a new earth and recreating new boundaries. Some have come out of the fog. That's the term we call when we start realizing as adoptees, wow, this really wasn't for the best. And some of us have ended up dancing away from our adoptive families to create healthy boundaries for ourselves. You know, the social contract often isn't equitable or fair or tolerant. Maybe you're familiar, maybe you've adopted an animal or a baby or a culture or some land to overcome your own loss. And I know I have. And so I'm on both sides of the fence, and adopting a new land, adopting animals, adopting a culture, and to overcome my own loss and trauma. And it was all about me. It wasn't so much about those things that I was adopting. I mean, I'd like to think it was. I said it was, but really, I was just trying to heal myself by adopting something else, and it didn't touch the issues that needed to heal. It didn't heal the loss and trauma like I thought it would. And so many other adoptees have been understanding this as well and sharing these new lessons and understandings so that we all may adopt success, transmuting these violent cycles into love. Like, adoption's been around for so long, yet it still hasn't solved the problem of leaving behind young through elder, person, place, or thing, blamed, shamed, scapegoated, and trashed. And so many adoptees are working to flip that card, and it's super exciting. I can leave some of the links to hook up with some of these activists in the description. So, the spell for this elderhood. There are no words for the way this feels. I have spent hours and lifetimes mastering mountains only to realize, in the end, that I am their peaks and valleys. Let me rest in the celebration of all I have accomplished. I am comforted in the pride of what will come from the seeds I have sown and the fruits I have harvested. My gifts at this time is witness. Mine is the compassionate gaze of understanding. My altar speaks. Let be what was, let rise what is, and celebrate always the mystery with faithless devotion. I'm going to read that 3 more times. There are no words for the way this feels. I have spent hours and lifetimes mastering mountains only to realize in the end that I am their peaks and valleys. Let me rest in the celebration of all I have accomplished. I am comforted in the pride of what will come from the seeds I have sown and the fruits I have harvested. My gift at this time is witness. Mine is the compassionate gaze of understanding. My altar speaks. Let be what was, let rise what is, and celebrate always the mystery with faithless devotion. Okay, 2 more times. There are no words for the way this feels. I have spent hours and lifetimes mastering mountains only to realize in the end that I am their peaks and valleys. Let me rest in the celebration of all I have accomplished. I am comforted in the pride of what will come from the seeds I have sown and the fruits I have harvested. My gift at this time is witness. Mine is the compassionate gaze of understanding. My altar speaks. Let be what was, let rise what is, and celebrate always the mystery with faithless devotion. And one last time. There are no words for the way this feels. I have spent hours and lifetimes mastering mountains only to realize in the end that I am their peaks and valleys. Let me rest in the celebration of all I have accomplished. I am comforted in the pride of what will come from the seeds I have sown and the fruits I have harvested. My gift at this time is witness. Mine is the compassionate gaze of understanding. My altar speaks. Let be what was, let rise what is, and celebrate always the mystery with faithless devotion. This really speaks to me as an orphan and adoptee, and just all the work done to get to this point, coming out of the closet, so to speak, and dismantling the adoption fairy tales and stepping out of the fog and rebuilding and taking responsibility for that loss and trauma. And the loss and trauma that I experienced through the relinquishment and through the adoption and through inequitable social contracts, as well as how I mirrored the madness and inflicted loss and trauma on others, and the dark nights of the soul. I had a feeling that might happen. That's funny that went out right when I talked about the dark nights of the soul. many dark nights of the soul doing this work. As you might imagine, dismantling the adoption fairy tales is not for the faint of heart. In rebuilding, maybe you've been in some of those conversations and you see how the adoptee and the orphan, their voice is put aside for the parents in the room, all the different parents, or even siblings, friends. They just have been shown a different way, that adoption fairy tale, and have an attachment to that. I can't speak for them. That's not fair of me. What I'm trying to say is just how often the adoptee and orphan voice is cast aside for the others in the room. And so following through and standing up, and sometimes having to walk away from people, places, and things, that's hardy work. And so this spell is a way to honor that. And that's super sweet, to really own it for yourself in a way that nobody else can, and to honor yourself and what you've done in a way that nobody else can, and to really rest in that and celebrate that. That's super sweet. So the guiding messages: set your altars to the honoring of ancestor. Look to lessons learned, blessings gathered and spent. Set faith to finality. Completion is a virtuous legacy. Righteous. That's really deep. That's super deep. So I'm going to let that sit for a moment, and I'm called to read the midday card to see what else Venus in Pisces squaring Mars and Gemini at 11 degrees might have to say to us. And so here's that midday card. And let's see what the living altar has to say. Midday. Midday. There she is. So the Witch's Wheel correspondence is fire, summer, south, adolescence, young adult, catalyst, celebration, gibbous moon, full moon, transformation, cleansing, ritual, and creation. And as I was reading that, I was called to invite you to create your own witch's wheel, which would require some research and development to understand what those are, and then some patience and some time and some space set aside to actually put it together. So you can have some fun with that and apply that to help you play through your losses and traumas. And also, as I was reading and the full moon jumped out at me, that's coming up in a few days on the 5th at around 1:28 in the afternoon Eastern time. And I invite you to explore your full moon rituals and cleansings and creations and transformations, and what activities you enjoy doing on the full moon to really honor that. I think that might be another fun way to help play through the losses and traumas. And so the spell for this midday card, I'm going to read it 4 times. So here we go. I commit to boldly showing up to the opportunities that challenge me to become. My fire and my passion for life is renewed daily. I am catalyst. I wisely choose accountability to my impact. My choices are the hearth of my evolution. I show up with courage to tend that cauldron of creation daily. 3 more times. I'm going to read this. I commit to boldly showing up to the opportunities that challenge me to become. My fire and my passion for life is renewed daily. I am catalyst. I wisely choose accountability to my impact. My choices are the hearth of my evolution. I show up with the courage to tend that cauldron of creation daily. And then 2 more times. I commit to boldly showing up to the opportunities that challenge me to become. My fire and my passion for life is renewed daily. I am catalyst. I wisely choose accountability to my impact. My choices are the hearth of my evolution. I show up with courage to tend that cauldron of creation daily. And one last time. I commit to boldly showing up to the opportunities that challenge me to become. My fire and my passion for life is renewed daily. I am catalyst. I wisely choose accountability to my impact. My choices are the hearth of my evolution. I show up with courage to tend that cauldron of creation daily. Wow, that's intense, especially after what we just spoke about and what's jumping out at me. I mean, the whole thing, but right there in the middle, it says, I am catalyst, and orphans and adoptees epitomize that word. We catalyzed so many people to move, and from our maternal and paternal birth families to our adoptive birth families to ourselves. And then those of us who have stepped out of the fog and have chosen to do the work of dismantling the adoption fairy tales and closing out the old earth and rebuilding the new earth. Wow, it's so relevant. This is so relevant, and that's super sweet. Honoring of that. And heartily, we are grateful. So the guided message, being called back to the spell and the talk about choices, and just reminded to share that the orphan and adoptee don't have a choice in the beginning. The choices are made for them, and often through adolescence, which in my experience seems to run into the mid-20s, if we're really to be fair and honor the human growth and development. And that's not to say that an adolescent is not capable of making really hardy decisions and actions. It's just to be fair and give them more space to develop into the person that they really desire to become, instead of being bound by other people's choices. Like the adoptee is bound by their birth parents' choices and their adoptive parents' choices. And that free will isn't so free, is it? And so this spell honors taking the power back and stepping into your own authority. And I was just called to highlight that and honor the work that you've done to get to this point. I'm so proud of you, and you're leading the way in love and light, and thank you. Heartily, we are grateful. Okay, so the guiding messages: stay the course. Now is the time to continue on with what you have started. Let what has begun to grow. Enjoy the process. Wow. And again, that's so relevant. Starting up a new year, and also talking about building up this new earth. And that is super sweet. Wow, powerful messages for Venus in Pisces, squaring Mars in Gemini at 11 degrees. And that square, you may research more about the metaphysical properties, properties of the square. For example, in the corners, there's the most activity, and squares, they offer foundation and stability and strength, but they're also challenging. There's those sharp edges, right? So Venus and Mars are sort of in that sharp dialogue about how to move forward. And Pisces is that spiritual side, and Gemini is more like the day-to-day, how you get things done. And so how are you going to move forward hand in hand, masculine and feminine, your divine masculine, your divine feminine, your spiritual, your earthly, and lots to consider. And you have lots of support from your source, from your spirit team, from different spaces that you've found for yourself. And that is super sweet, on top of knowing that you can trust yourself and depend on yourself and play your cards through your losses and traumas to live the life that you want to live, from crisis to diaspora to survival to thriving to pilgrimage to dreams coming true. So that's super sweet. So those are the messages that Venus has for you. And thank you so much for breathing life into adoption spirit magic with me. Heartily, we are grateful. Until next time, ciao for now. I love you all.